Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I actually have a new microphone today, so hopefully sound quality picks up a little bit for you guys. I'd love to hear in the comments how this video compares to our previous ones, and if there's any things that you guys notice in this recording. So, to jump right on in, we're going to take a look at this new icon diagonal cutter, relatively new. It might have been out for maybe a couple weeks now, maybe a little bit longer. This finally showed up at my local Harbor Freight. So I wanted to take a look at it, and we'll run through it here, and we'll see too if this particular diagonal cutter, the 7-inch, is similar to another manufacturer out there. So let's dive on in. As you can see here, this is a 7-inch diagonal cutter. It is part number P. I'll bring it up here for you guys to see. PDC7. As you see in the packaging, it says it's forged alloy steel for maximum strength and durability. Obviously, forged alloy does give you that extra durability over time. Looking at the handle grips, they are dipped. So a nice, and in this case, it's actually quite a thick dipping. So that is actually quite nice. Induction-hardened cutting edges. So referring to up here to the actual blades on the side cutters. And lifetime guarantee as well with many of the Harbor Freight products. So we'll pull these bad boys out of here. And then if we look on the back, one thing that kind of drew me to this particular one is Harbor Freight has been doing a good job going more towards, especially in the Icon line and some of the other lines, going towards the manufactured in Taiwan route. Which I feel like with my luck, the majority of their products that come from Taiwan are better than the Chinese or alternate countries. So, and once again, this is kind of like the same stuff that was pointed out in the front. Induction hardened edges, forged alloy steel. So, anyways, that's your packaging for it. Looking at them, I mean, these look to be a beefy set. I mean, look at these arms coming up here to the fulcrum. And one thing I really like about that fulcrum is how close it is to the actual cutting port. So if you want to know about a good pair of dikes that cut good, the closer this is to here, the greater that leverage is. So obviously the icon lettering, I can't tell if it's silk screened. Doesn't quite feel like silk screened. It feels like it's etched. So that is etched onto the front there. On the back, nothing new there. But this, I mean, look at this thick section coming up from the handles themselves. That is very nice. That gives it added security. Obviously, would reduce the amount of flex when you are squeezing tightly on the handles. And they got quite a narrow upper section here, right? So if you're trying to get into tight places with these, that does allow for you to get in there a little bit better. Now, fit and finish, I mean, looking at here, this is quite a nice smooth finish. Yeah, it's actually quite nice. When you turn it over, though, it's kind of a little bit of a different story. You can definitely see the grinding marks, if not sanding marks, that make themselves apparent on the sides here. So this isn't quite as clean as I'd like to see it. Open up the jaw. This is the part that's induction hardened, as you can see inside there. Let's see if we get you guys a better view. That is quite nice. And these are, if you notice, it's not like a flush cut. These are more inward bound, and that allows for you to get a thicker head and thicker point on here. And that thicker point allows for better wear characteristics over time. If you go with flush cut, they tend to get a lot sharper taper, and that edge doesn't seem to catch as well. Or it doesn't seem to catch, but it doesn't seem to last as long. Look at the machining here. Got some good machining up down into there, but you can see they went a little bit too far and left a little bit of a mark on the inside. Right there. I mean, all in all, though, this is relatively nice throughout. The opening's not that great. You're probably looking at Oh, almost 3/4, yeah, about 3/4 of an inch. Opening just shy of that. Handles, I really do like this. These have a nice, as you can see here, kind of like a spongy characteristic, right? So, and look down the side of it here. This is a wide surface to grab onto, right, in your hand. That does give the ability to spread out those forces so your hands do not fatigue as bad. So that is a nice design in itself. How straight are those? Those are actually pretty true. Those are pretty dead on. So it's nice to see some consistency there. But overall, I mean, it looks like it's pretty well put together. I mean, compared it to some of my other side cutters, right? These ones are just very minimally dipped. I think most of us can relate to that. This is a pretty standard practice for side cutters. These ones are great and all. I want to say their opening is actually even bigger. Yes, quite a bit bigger. But though, I mean, in all fairness, if you're trying to squeeze something that big, that will become difficult. I mean, opening wise, you're looking at just over an inch. And then check out the jaw there. And you look at where the center pin is. Notice how that is in the center of the arms and essentially the cutters. Whereas on those icons, it is better placed up higher, giving you much more leverage. But the sacrifice of that, though, too, is how wide is it open? So that would minimize opening just a little bit. So now diving into these icons, they do, and the reason I bought these is these actually look very familiar to a set of side cutters that I already have in my arsenal. And I'll show those to you guys now. Now, if you can see here, these are snap-ons, made in USA. I've had these for quite a while. As you can tell, there's some use. But you guys tell me, are those remotely similar? Or even very similar in size and design and shape? Yeah, even to the handles. All right, exact same color. I mean, these are thick. As Snap-on would call these are called the plastisol handles. So they have a cushion feel much like these, which up until recently, Icon or Harbor Freight has never had handles with that kind of cushioning. So I can only imagine they took a play out of the Snap-on book to make these. But let's just look at the heads. I mean, you can see here the jaws themselves, the design. That is just dead on. Even on Snap-on's website, on the part number on these ones, I was looking these up. These are actually part number A87CF. Snap-on doesn't sell that part number anymore. They're not called the 87ACFs, but much the same as the icons. These are cold forged alloy steel. They have the differential heat treatment, so obviously they heat treat the parts of this differently, and they have what they call the VectorEdge, as they call it, with tight tolerances, and is induction hardened. That kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? And then once again, the plastisol handles. So it's just kind of remarkable to see that Icon is continually copying Snap-on products. Now, is that good or bad? I mean, I'd like to hear you guys' opinions. Do you like the fact that Icon is copying an American-made company's products? Do you think they're doing it as good? Do you think they're doing it better? Hardness-wise, I mean, I was able to scratch. You guys are able to see here. If you take this the end of it here, you can actually see that you can scratch into the Snap-on. And likewise, the induction's hardened side, you could take it and snap and scratch, so you guys see, into the icon. Of course, I didn't scratch as far into the icon, but you guys get the point. Yeah, price-wise, I mean, Snap-on versus Icon. These icons are a third of the price. I mean, Snap-ons are roughly almost 60 bucks. Icons currently are like $19. These to me are very similar. Where I find the biggest difference is the transition of materials here, and even the machining. Like, this is a machined finish here. Very nice, very clean. This, not so clean. Right? You can see the sanding marks, the grinding marks. Thickness is good throughout. They're pretty identical in thickness. Where it changes, though, is obviously right down here at the handle. This abruptly goes to a significant thickness and stays that thickness throughout. The Snap-on tapers, and putting that in your hand, I kind of like that because it gives you the flexibility to use this. It feels a little lighter, a little less large in the hand, whereas the Icon, that is significant. You could that definitely interrupts your thumb as you're attempting to open and close the cutters. So definitely a little bit different, but oh my gosh, if you want to say that they copied them, I'm 100% on board. These are virtually identical. Like, even up here in the mouth, this shape, that is almost dead on. A little bit sharper here for the Snap-on, right? A little more triangulated. But opening wise is actually a little bit different, it looks like. The Snap-on has a slightly greater opening. Putting it near, just shy of an inch. It's like 7/8. So, but that could be too the use and wear. You know, these are years of use. Still tight. Icons very much tight and stiff. Not overly so, but I would imagine these would be a great tool to keep and to use alongside my Snap-ons. So let's take a quick look, though, real quick, how well these cut, these materials. We'll start with some traditional side cutters, nothing super fancy or special. I mean, really easy to cut and snip these. Jump into the Icons. That's even easier. The Snap-ons. Even sounds a little different when it cuts it, doesn't it? But they cut about the same. I mean, it's fairly easy to cut them. Let's use some housing electrical wire. We'll start first. Let's hope we can do this. Let's do some traditional ones. That cut, that wasn't really too hard. Icons. About the same. Snap-ons. About the same, not too much difference there. Have some pretty thick wire here. It's almost like 2 gauge, maybe. Let's try it with the traditionals. Took quite a bit of effort there. Icon. Wants to slide down the jaws. That was better. Definitely different. Not quite as difficult. Cut and Snap-on. Wants to slide on the jaws too. Oh, that's close. Cutting wise, that is close. Maybe you could do a test on how much actual force goes into your hand and see how much force it actually takes to chop those. But by hand, I mean, I can't tell a difference of how much harder it is really to. It is that close. So, what are your guys' thoughts? Tell me what you think about this comparison. Are they the same? Are they not? Would you buy an Icon over Snap-on at a third of the cost, being that they do claim to have the same properties? I'd like to hear your guys' comments. And of course, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.